correct, takes Bills and makes it possessive.
Oh, Bills Matthew's trending, so it's a good
Okay,
time.
what did they do now?
Good time for me to share this.
Sounds good.
You're not all on the screen, so I'm going to move it back.
Got it. Perfect.
Hello.
Wait, did you just share a different one? No, never mind. Forgot it.
That's what I was saying.
Which camera are we looking at? That one?
Yesterday it was
Okay.
interesting. So,
We're going through Icy withdrawal. Is Icy doing anything live?
Not on ours, not on this, no.
you ready?
All right, I am ready whenever
I
everybody
just
else
needs
is.
to bring back that blade haircut
Gary, are we doing breaks and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
when he had like
Like a
the kid
regular
play.
show.
I was like, he
Well, we're
gets,
gonna
like,
do a
$1
longer
for
though,
a
right?
version of
Okay.
4 hours of
So
content.
you're gonna let me know when you want to do breaks. Just let me know when you want to do breaks,
Okay.
and I'll pull everybody out. I think we're ready when you're ready, Gary.
We're long enough to watch it.
Yep. Make sure my hands don't knock anything over.
Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights.
There we go.
What
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of The Huddle here at Rock Sports Network. We are live from Thurman's 34 Rush, where things are happening every night with over 30 HD screens, including a 15-foot main screen, which is right over there. Food and drink specials, live music on select weekends. Make sure you check them out, facebook.com/Batavia Downs. It is wild card weekend. Bills playing at 4:30. They are playing the Houston Texans in the first round of the playoffs, and I brought some backup because this is way too much to talk about. To my right here, Dan Borello from the Dan Borello Show, as well as the Overtime Show here on Rock Sports Network. This guy to my left, Mario Granata, for those who don't know, from the Hashtag Sports crew. And on the end, unfortunately, he's on video this week, folks, but it is Drew Gier from the Rock Pile Report.
Face for radio,
A
ladies and
sober Drew Gier from the Rock Pile Report on video, which is a rare sighting to see Drew in his
rarity.
natural habitat.
Don't
So,
you judge me. Don't you judge me.
so we're going to break down the AFC wildcard, or I'm sorry, the AFC playoff picture today, as well as preview the Buffalo Bills game against the Houston Texans. First and foremost, Mario, I'm going to throw it to you as you drink some water. You're ready to go here.
go.
So,
Let's rock and roll.
the big news this morning, first and foremost, Will Fuller out for the Houston Texans. So let's talk a little bit about what that's going to mean for this Buffalo Bills team. How big is the loss of Will Fuller to the Houston Texans and their offense?
Well, statistically, the deep ball accuracy of Bob Watson, everyone's talking about this. When Fuller's in the game, it's a completely different animal. But with the defense now you don't have to shift the safety for Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer to shift the safety over. Buffalo Bills can get a little bit more aggressive defensively with their blitz packages and a lot of things that are going on. Plus, this opens the door more, I think, for Duke Johnson to play a bigger role in this offense than previously intended.
Okay, so Drew, we talk about Trey White, who was named to the All-Pro team, first team All-Pro next to Stephon Gilmore yesterday, so certainly a well-deserved honor for him. What does that change in terms of what his responsibility might be today against the Houston Texans?
Well, I know they said earlier in the week that they weren't, Trey White kind of, when he was asked by reporters if he was up to the task of just shadowing DeAndre Hopkins. And he kind of, he waffled a little bit and said, hey, I don't know how I'm going to be used, I don't think I'll be shadowing him the whole time. It'd be folly not to, considering the talent level of that wide receiver. And what I think it means, though, is that when you look at the job he's going to be able to do, you can stick him on a DeAndre Hopkins and not have to worry about anybody else hurting you. On the drive in here today, I was thinking about it. Where else does Deshaun Watson go with the ball when Will Fuller isn't on the field? So I took a look at the 4 games throughout the course of the season that mattered, that he didn't play in. And the one thing that sticks out is that in 3 of those 4 games, DeAndre Hopkins saw 13, 12, and 11 targets. Nobody else on the team got more than 3. So what that tells you is that when Will Fuller isn't on the field, they don't have a balanced offense.
Yeah.
Essentially, their passing game is entirely driven through Hopkins. with a talent like Trey White on our team, I feel like that tips the favor of things directly into the favor of the Buffalo Bills in terms of shutting down the passing game of the Texans.
Now, Dan, one of the things coming into this matchup is the matchup between Sean McDermott, relatively new guy to not only the NFL but to the playoffs in general, and then on the other side, Bill O'Brien, who has plenty of experience in the postseason, but unfortunately not great experience. So, how's that coaching matchup going to work today between those two, between the two head coaches?
Here's what's cool. I mean, Sean McDermott's been there. He's been to a Super Bowl. He was a defensive coordinator. He wasn't the general. Now he's the general. And I have always given McDermott a look where, the jury's still out on him. He's done a nice job so far. He hasn't embarrassed the franchise. He hasn't been a jerk to people. He hasn't gone and said, this is the way things operate. He's a leader from within, which real leaders are. They're not dictators. Doug Marrone, kind of we want to be a Bill Parcells guy. He wasn't. Dictator. Rex Ryan, absentee leader, just wanted the appearance of being that guy. McDermott's a guy who works with everybody. Bill O'Brien's always been a train wreck. And I've always said this because Bill O'Brien, he got a lot of credit because he rebuilt Penn State at just the right time after that controversy. He gets into the National Football League, and he's kept the job because, let's be honest, the AFC South perennially is one of the weaker divisions in the NFL. Yeah. That's why the Texans, everybody knew this game was going to be on at 4:30 because, all right, that's the Texans slot every year in the playoffs. The Texans are like, maybe because of Connor Cook, they're kind of like the Bengals in a way when it comes to the playoffs. Remember when Marvin Lewis took over and they make the playoffs but they would lose? The only reason why Bill O'Brien wins games...
Oddly enough, aside from Connor Cook, the only two teams that the Texans have beaten are the Bengals.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. It's like, but other than the Connor Cook Raiders team, the Texans really aren't going to beat anybody, and they've proven that. I think that the coaching edge does go to Sean McDermott based on what he was able to do this year, okay? Look, even his in-game strategies and calling the timeouts, everybody's wondering why, and he's getting looks at the opposing team's offenses. Oh, now we're starting to get it. You're starting to see him come to life as a head coach. Now, this is the first playoff game or second playoff game where he's the general. I'm sure he learned from his mistakes against Jacksonville, but I think he's treating this literally, it sounds ridiculous, like any other game. I think everything is business as usual in Buffalo, and as far as strategy goes, I think the Bills are going to they had the leg up on Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, no, I think, Drew, one of the things I'd like to talk a little bit about is, you talk about the game 2 years ago against the Jacksonville Jaguars in this game, and McDermott's kind of kept a similar philosophy where it's just another game, we're just going to go out and play. As much as the team wanted to say that 2 years ago, I think everybody knew that it wasn't just another game, right? This kind of feels like a game where it does feel more like just another game. Obviously, it's a playoff game. It's not anything new now to this fan base, right? I mean, you would gone 19 years before you made the playoffs the last time around. So this time, it almost has a different feel to it. And do you think that's going to help the team stay even keeled because they did come out hot against that Jacksonville team and kind of overplayed almost a little bit early in that game?
I think one of the things you can be susceptible to as a football team is you can come in overexcited. We've seen it for years. A perfect example of this. Do you recall the game that Rex Ryan led Buffalo Bills Week 2? The New England Patriots coming into our house, and we were going to take our ferocious front seven, and we were going to be all over Tom Brady, and we were going to break the decibel record.
Right, and that was Bill the Bully year. That was
we were going to have a bully of a team, and they railroaded us for 3.5 quarters.
Yep.
Because because what you saw was a team that, and they failed to execute in a lot of phases because there was so much adrenaline, there was so much hype coming into that game that you saw the effect it had on their composure. McDermott's a completely different animal. And I think that it's natural when you've achieved something for a city, for a fan base, and as a team for the first time in almost 2 decades. There's a natural high that you're going to have coming into a game like that. Now that some of the guys on this roster were here, a lot of them, when we achieved what we achieved back in 2017, this almost does become business as usual. This is what you expected, not something that was gifted to you. You walked into Pittsburgh expecting to win that football game, and you handled your business. So the last 2 weeks have kind of just been a dress rehearsal for, hey, let's go out there. There's no pressure. We're just going to play our game. So now that you're walking into this, you're 6-2 on the road. You're used to hostile environments. You know your fans travel well, and you know you've done this before, especially against better defenses and better teams. So go out there and handle your stuff, and I think McDermott's attitude is infectious because you watch the way players who might have been a little bit hyped up in their pregame interviews maybe were a little bit more boisterous about the things they'd say. You don't hear any of that anymore.
No, you don't. It's like the Jacksonville game. It's like, oh, crap, we're in the playoffs. What do we do?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is this like they've been gearing toward
And I
it?
think the fan base was like that. The coaching staff was like, everyone
Okay,
wasn't
Rick,
really
Rick,
sure what to do.
calm
Right?
down,
They were-
and they almost won it.
Right.
I mean, they were only 3 scores in that game.
Yeah.
To me, like, we're old enough to remember the 88, 89 Buffalo Bills, all right? You know and I know that was the most winnable playoff game in Buffalo Bills history, and they could only put up 3 points. They've been gearing toward this all season long. They're ready.
Yeah. So Mario, we talk about coming out a little bit hot. We have seen that from this team
Yes.
come out overexcited. You saw it on the Thanksgiving game. You saw it in the Pittsburgh game. Josh Allen comes out, and I think he feels the moment. He needs to settle in a little bit. So how big is it going to be for him today, being his first playoff game,
Yeah.
going into Houston, which is going to be, whether it's a hostile environment, I don't know, because there's a ton of tickets on the secondary market. There's going to be a lot of Bills fans there. So, not the biggest moment he's played in thus far, but how important is it going to be for him to settle down quickly? And if you're McDermott, how do you try to mitigate his emotion and his coming out and wanting to beat the world right out of the gate?
Well, it's funny, real quick, before that I get to that, you guys were talking about, they're breaking the drought versus this year, what's the difference in the playoffs? It's almost like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving was breaking the drought.
Yeah.
And now, like, New Year's Eve is this now, because, okay, we're used to that, but I don't want to go too overboard. As far as Allen goes, he's been knocking down walls, what's been going on this entire season. Okay, he had an injury against New England, he had to come back from an injury. Houston, last year, he got hurt. He's coming back to Houston. He's made the trip to Houston before. He's played in you could say that Pittsburgh game was a playoff game because it ended up clinching their playoff fate. He won that game in prime time. He ended up winning on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I don't think the stage is too big for the kid. I just think that he needs to, they got to get him some really easy throws. Maybe, I know people are not going to like this, but have him run the ball early. You know what I mean? Get him into the game, so get him settled down, because he may throw a ball 95 yards on the first play. So, I mean, as far as that goes, but if you do not decide to call a game that way, that may tell Allen, listen, we have confidence in you that we don't need to do these things to settle you down. We know that you're settled down already. We have a great game plan going in it. Dable was in the box is going to be in the box today like he was last year, so that's more comfort for him. They're running more up-tempo. I'm just interested to see the personnel packages that come out today. I see a lot more 5 wide coming out, which Allen, he likes running that a little bit more. So
Yeah. Dan, how do you try to temper the kid that's coming, again, Josh Allen? What do you do as a coach? Is it establish the run? Is it what Mario recommended? Maybe try to get him running the ball a little early, try to get him settled in. Yeah.
No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. No, I think, as to Mario's point, I think he's accustomed to this. Like, let's think about this. This kid wasn't supposed to play college football. One school wanted him.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to be in this situation. He was the, parody of a starting quarterback. I didn't believe in him. I didn't want the Bills to draft him. Just the fact that he started all 16 games this year in a playoff season is a huge feat. His issue's not like being, calmed down. I don't think he's too hyped. I think his issues are trying to be the big hero, and that could be in week 2 of the season. That could be today. But I think, like Mario said, get him a design run. Let him go in there, and I hate saying this because, I'm just being cautious when I say this. Let him take a hit on his terms, not like taking a sack. I'm talking, I'm going to run down the ball down your throat. I'm going to take a hit for a first down, and
Let me lower a shoulder.
Here we go.
Yeah, let me
Right,
lower a
exactly.
shoulder
I'm
and
going
get
to set
some-
the tone for this team. We all know our AFL history. When it was it Ken Stratton who took a hit, or Ken Stratton delivered a hit on Keith Lincoln in the 65 AFL championship game. The Chargers had a little bit of momentum, and after that hit, it turned around. The Bills won the game. I want Josh Allen, as the leader of this team, to set that tone, drive a shoulder into somebody in that first run, get that first down. We're here to play. I'm not, because you have to let your young quarterback take that proverbial bull by the horns. And if you can do that, I think that, all right, now we can follow your lead here. If that's one way to settle a guy down, I think that's the way to do it.
Shifting from one young player to another, Drew, how important is Devin Singletary going to be to this football game and this football team?
Devin Singletary, in the run-up to this game, what you've seen and read a lot of is just especially from the Texas and the Texans media and things of that nature, you see a lot of concern about Devin Singletary, and rightfully so. I mean, his contact balance is incredible. I think he was second in rookie rushing for yards after contact.
Yep.
He's
Second in the NFL in missed tackles forced.
Yes. So you see some things that he does that are special. And the thing is that as a team that hasn't played a running back like this all season in the Texans defense, and B doesn't tackle very well.
Yeah.
I think they're in the bottom third of the NFL or top third of the NFL for missed tackles this season. That's got to have them concerned. And if anything, you need to feed that. Early on, he's talking about establishing the run to give him some confidence. I think, if anything, you establish the run early not to give your young quarterback confidence, but to shake the confidence of that defensive coordinator. You want to open things up for your quarterback, and you want to make this game easier. Give him Beasley over the middle a little bit easier by sucking those linebackers down towards the line of scrimmage, because they know they can't miss.
Yeah.
They know they have to be sound because you've already burned them once or twice for long runs. Or 2 or 3 or 4 runs in a row that drive a couple first downs.
Sure.
You do that, it's going to change the complexion of how the Texans have to adjust to you, and it's going to make life so much easier for Josh Allen.
Mario, one thing that we saw out of Devin Singletary, up until really the Baltimore game, he had a couple crucial drops in that game, and then since then they haven't really got him going in the passing game too much. But he found a lot of success in the Baltimore game, even the one that he dropped, where he would have gone down the sideline, after breaking the tackle on Weddle. How important is it for them to try to get him going in the passing game today in order to continue that momentum that he tends to build over the course of a game on the ground?
Well, we knew coming into the season the Singletary was more of a rhythm runner, but we didn't really know about him in the pass game. I think just to get him touches, he's one of your most exciting, versatile players that you have on offense. I think just for the confidence standpoint in him and the fact that the overall offense, it opens up a new facet of your offense. It's something that if the Bills win today and they end up getting past Houston, it's another facet that other teams have to plan for against the Buffalo Bills. So if that's one of the facets you want to know, you want to throw out to him, you want to activate Yeldon in that respect, you want to have 2 guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. I know I just opened up a can of worms maybe with Yeldon, but my point being is this. We can go back to the video when we drafted Singletary if you'd like. I mean, that's fine.
I've got it as a GIF.
It's right over there, and I flipped this tablet and put my head down because I was like, well, what is this pick? What are we doing? But like every single draft criticism I have, Josh Allen, Matt Milano, Trey White, Devin
Wait, you criticized Matt Milano in the 5th round?
This is why on
I
our
was like,
show,
oh, cool. This sounds
is
cool.
why on our show,
It's like the
all
cookie.
draft season long, we bring in experts to talk about draft topics because you can't trust me. I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't trust
over
you
here.
now.
Interestingly, watching that pick back, what gets lost in that is the Chicago Bears traded up over the Buffalo Bills and took David Montgomery. So you wonder what would have been, who was the real target for the Bills there? Was it Montgomery or was it Singletary? Because it could have been completely different because Montgomery has struggled mightily this season to try to get going on the ground. So that's I just watch it back as I laugh at Drew's reaction to it, but it's just an interesting thing to watch them trade up over, take Montgomery, who was a very highly thought of running back, to take a guy who not really many people knew, and you wonder what the reaction would have been had Montgomery been the pick instead of Singletary. Not only your reaction, but also what the season would have looked like.
Well, so we're sitting here talking about getting the running backs involved and just Devin Singletary's, his value to what's going to happen today. When you look at the numbers, because I like numbers. They don't tell the whole story, but they can give you some insight as to what you're going up against. Going into Week 17, obviously the Texans sat a lot of their starters on offense and defense. They were ranked 31st in the league for first downs allowed, and they were They were last place in the entire NFL for red zone touchdowns allowed. Now, at one point in this season, when they were letting the running game and Josh Allen use his legs in the red zone, they were one of the top teams in football in red zone conversions. I feel like having your running backs established as a solid part of this game, it's going to feed right into that. Because when you condense the field like that, but you have to worry about tight ends, and you saw in the New England game, they love to try to throw to tight ends in the back line there. If you can establish that run, when you get within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, you're not seeing a lot of that anymore. You're going to see them be able to pound the rock down there, which is going to hopefully pay more dividends than it would trusting a rookie tight end and a second-year quarterback to hook up for big touchdowns.
Yeah. Now, Dan, we talk about how the offense can get going. One guy on the other side who's back for the Houston Texans today, J.J. Watt, is going to try and keep that offense from getting going too much. How much realistically can you expect from Watt today if you're the Houston Texans or even the Buffalo Bills?
It's not that I can expect much from him. All he's got to do is make 1 or 2 plays like he always does.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the E.J. Manuel play. Let's not relive that. Oh, wait, I just made you. I apologize. But J.J. Watt, it's like, I don't want to say, I hate the whole experience. Well, he's been there. He's J.J. Watt. He was the Defensive Player of the Year. Countless times he's going to Canton. We all know that. But he has been banged up. He hasn't been the same guy in a few years. But all it takes is, like at the Toby Keith song, I might be as good as I ever was once. You know what I'm saying? That's all it takes for a guy like him to get in there and disrupt it. And by the way, the Bills' offensive line, particularly on that right side, sometimes I get a little nervous, and they might move him up and down the line. Hey, JJ, where are you comfortable here? Where can we exploit this Bills' offensive line? Do I think JJ Watt's going to have a huge impact? No, but he doesn't have to do much. He just has to make one big play and everybody say, JJ Watt. And it's funny how I'm not a huge momentum guy, but you want to get that crowd going. If that dude gets in there and gets Josh Allen or hits him, because Allen's not great at protecting the football.
Yeah,
all it takes is just one hit for that crowd to just believe in that guy, and all of a sudden, doubt starts creeping in and stuff. Do I think he'll make a major impact? No, but he doesn't have to. All he's got to do is just make maybe one play.
And he will make a major impact in the sense that you do have to account for him when he is.
Yes, he is on the field.
So,
right.
So Mario, Drew's asking, do you? When JJ Watt's on the field, do you have to account for him just because of who he is, even though he's coming back from a pretty serious injury? An injury he's come back from once before already.
I think what Dan's referring to when he talks about the right side of the line, he's talking about Cody Ford and a little bit of the trouble he's had over there. I hope you weren't talking about Feliciano because we may have to do something a little later.
No. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to name names, but
the point is that he does. They allow him the flexibility to move over that line. However, he's not coming back from like a high ankle sprain, hip, knee, or something like that. It's a torn pectoral. So the motion that he uses a lot of times in order to get past these guys, he can't use that motion to the fullest of his ability now. Okay, he's still a monster. He's a freak of nature. We all know that.
But
I don't think
Ford
you
has
completely
struggled
shift.
with speed rushers too,
I understand.
and Watt can get around the edge.
So what you do is you put, I can't believe I'm going to say this, you put Lee Smith over there. You chip him with the back. You chip with another tight end. You put Knox on that side to spread him out a little bit wide so he has a longer angle to bring. You put him out there a couple, 3-4 times in that. I know you're going to
just give your quarterback another half second.
Well, yeah, that's what it's going to do. But I just don't think he's going to be as effective because of the injury he did have. Coming back 8 weeks from a torn pectoral is ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
People forget that how devastating that is because we don't understand. You've played the game. You understand what that means.
Yeah.
So if you were to go to bangedupbills.com, Kyle Trimble, he's a guy he's an orthopedic doctor who covers he writes about Buffalo Bills injuries in sports in general. He has a really nice piece about this injury specifically, detailing the recovery time, what it looks like, what it does to you physically, and how it limits your range of motion, and what things you can and can't get away with. An injury of this nature, there's no way he's playing it. If he sees the field today for a significant amount of snaps, there's no way he's playing it more than 60%. He cannot put weight in a reverse fashion on that pectoral without risking catastrophic pain and injury.
Which means he's going to rush a lot on that right side.
He's going to rush a lot on the other side. So he's not only pigeonholed, but he's limited. I'm sorry, but when it comes to all this J.J. Watt stuff, I feel like Bernie Mac at the Apollo when I say, I ain't scared of you. I ain't scared of you. This is what it comes down to.
Well, you're not the one playing him either.
If I'm the coach, here's what I say. If I'm Sean McDermott and I'm Brian Daboll, and I say, okay, you're dumb enough to try to play this. Bill O'Brien, you're desperate enough to put him out there because you feel like that's something you have to do, to jeopardize the safety of your player and long-term health because you desperately need this win. Anytime he's on the field, I don't care if it's 3rd and 7. I'm going to pull Spain. I'm going to run with a fullback lead on that side, and I'm going to hammer J.J. Watt. I'm going to make him try to set an edge on that side of the field. I'm going to expose him to everything terrible that could possibly happen to him, and I'm going to make you as a coach question whether or not it's worth putting him out there for another snap. Him being on the active roster is more of a detriment to that team, I think. I mean, good, he's an emotional leader on the sidelines. Great, he could do that in a hoodie, in sweatpants. Instead, you decided to have him suit up today when he's not healthy. I don't see him making a big impact, and if anything, I think he could be a massive liability to his team.
So we can plan on J.J. Watt pick 6 today. So, we'll remember who that was. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get more into this game, but we're also going to look at the other game that's going on today, which is the New England Patriots playing host to the Tennessee Titans, because that has big implications for next week and what the Bills could be facing next week and the road ahead. So before we take a break, our show is brought to you by Ralph Honda. Ralph Honda is rated #1 in Western New York for overall customer satisfaction. See the 2020 Hondas arriving daily at Ralph Honda, including the Odyssey Pilot and Civic. That short drive to West Ridge Road at Elm Grove and online at ralphhonda.com. Make sure you stick with us on the other side. We're going to be right back.
It died for about a minute, but I got it back.
Yeah, no. You got any questions?
Yeah, they're flying. They're flying back. A lot of maybe he talked about maybe some Duke Williams talk.
Okay.
You got to respect. They're saying you got to respect Watt. Is Naseki? Can Naseki handle Watt?
Well, Naseki might not even play.
Only player on that team that has 5 or more sacks is Whitney Merciless. Nobody else has more
Watt's
than 3.
got, but Watt's got 3, and he's only played in, what, 7 games?
That's why I'm saying run the ball down his throat and get him off the field.
That could be
I
the
wanna
bait.
see-
Because he's
I
going
wanna
to
see you
line
hit
up on that left side of that offensive line, or on that defensive line, so he's going to be rushing forward a lot because he's not going to want to use his offhand.
Yeah.
So he's going to try and leverage with his right.
I want to see you hit that guy. And I don't. It's like fighting
Here we
Ivan
go.
Drago.
Come in with
Just
Lattimore.
body.
Yep.
It's like Ivan Drago. He's cut.
All right, we're back here from Thurman's 34 Rush at Batavia Downs, and this is The Huddle. I'm Ryan Lasal, and joining me, Dan Borello, Mario Granata, Drew Gier on the other side. Brought in some reinforcements for today. We're talking Bills playoff football, wildcard weekend. Bills going to face the Texans later today, 4:35 kickoff. Our show today is brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab. Lattimore currently offers 25 clinics throughout the Rochester area, including nearby locations in North Chili and Webster. More than 50 certified physical therapists have experience in treating most conditions and sports injuries, and in most cases can offer initial consultations within 24 hours for your convenience. LattimorePT.com. Mario, I'll throw it
Do
to
they
you.
work on torn pectorals?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
somebody J.J. Watt, I'm sure, has seen. Mario, I'll throw it to you because the question came up in the hashtag chat on YouTube. So if you're joining us on YouTube, we always appreciate the partnership with hashtag. If you're watching on Facebook, on the Rock Sports Network page, make sure you leave it questions and comments here. But Mario, some comments have come up about Duke Williams, and,
Yes.
and he's the kind of the talk of the town right now for the Buffalo Bills. He has a huge game in what turns out to be a meaningless football game against the New York Jets, but it's still the Jets playing their starting defense. Not great, but not bad defensively have been the Jets. So, in your opinion, has Duke Williams earned himself an opportunity to be on the roster? When he was on the main roster, earlier in the season, he had that touchdown, the game-winning touchdown against the Titans. Did he earn himself a roster spot with his play against the New York Jets, or did he maybe earn himself a roster spot because of the dimension that he could bring that they don't have on this team right now?
Well, obviously, he definitely, like you said, he brings something to the table that no one else has. But I think it's the fact that he's been on the practice squad. He's been working with Barkley. So he hasn't been working with Allen every day.
Yeah.
So that could have been something. Unless they've been working this week, I don't know. I wasn't at practice. But the thing about it is, you have to think long term here. Who does he replace?
Right.
What does he do that is so much different than an Andre Roberts? What is something that he does that is so much different? Like, are you gonna sit Foster for him? Okay, who's gonna be your gunner? Who's gonna be that 4-3 guy to take the top off the ball? You got a returner. You want to put all your faith in McKenzie to be a returner?
No,
if you
I'm not.
if you want to sit Roberts,
Or have Micah Hyde just waving for fair catches every time
exactly.
there's a punt?
And Micah Hyde, he's going to be a vital piece to the defense, obviously today, as he is every week. But I just don't know what he's done to get on the field. You have a big receiving threat in Knox that has, he's got some drops here and there, but he's a guy that you're going to look for in the red zone. I don't know why they don't look for Knox more in the red zone, but I just don't know who you inactivate to put Duke on the field.
Dan, are you a Duke Williams
Truther?
proponent?
A Duke Williams truther? I want like heck for this kid to get out there in the field. We all do, right? He's a nice kid. He's got a great story. He came out of the CFL. We saw through training camp. We saw through the season. He's had his moments when he's gotten the opportunities. The problem is there were little tells in that last game where you see why the Bills may not put him on the field. Other than what Mario just said about, like, he only can catch passes, which you think is the most important thing, and it is, except they have guys who can do that. He can't play special teams. He can't do jet sweeps. It limits your special teams. You don't want Micah Hyde returning kicks today. You don't want that to happen. And we can go through all the scenarios, but, like, on the 3rd and 6, he's running a 4-yard out. That's a mental mistake, That first pass they threw in the first quarter, if he would have come down with that, I think we'd be making a major case for him to play today. It was a tough play. He didn't come down with the ball. He didn't come down with the ball on another 3rd down. But yet every time he caught the ball, he's celebrating like he's got the cure for cancer or something like that.
And it cost him a timeout.
It cost him a
Yeah.
timeout, too. So it's like those little things add up. You had a whole season to clean that up out of your act. You had an audition like Rob Johnson did in the famous Rob Johnson Colts game, right? And he had a nice game, but the reality is I don't know that he's necessary to put out there today. Now, if Andre Roberts couldn't play or something like that, okay, yeah, throw him out there, see what he can do. But, it's like you're throwing a guy cold into a playoff game like that. I don't know if I see that happening.
Yeah, and Drew, you talk about who do you make inactive if you do activate Duke Williams, right? And I think you can't deactivate a corner because now you've got the injury to Levi Wallace. You don't know how good he's going to be, and you're going to need an extra corner. You can't get rid of Sonoris Perry because then you're obviously it's Yeldon if that's the move there. DeMarco's too big when it comes to the special teams. And now with J.J. Watt back, that probably takes Lee Smith off the board because that was another guy you thought, well, maybe they can deactivate him, bring in Duke Williams as a big body. But now with J.J. Watt, you have to make sure you've got help for Cody Ford as much as you can on that side. So he might have lost his path with the announcement that Watt's going to play.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think that I understand why I like Duke Williams. And to your point, you saw in that last game flashes of who he might be at the NFL level, along with some of the things that you got to take some sandpaper to with another offseason in the NFL.
He's still raw.
But also it limits what you can do schematically. One of the things that gets lost in this is just how poor the Texans are in the middle of the field covering the ball. They're allowing 83% completion percentage over the middle. So you're going to give routes like that to a guy like Beasley. I mean, they've got three linebackers who are going to see significant time today that all have allowed completion percentages over 75% this season. They're not good in coverage in that part of the field, and that's where they've been exposed a lot over the course of the year. To put a player like Duke Williams out there, who he's not fast enough or quick enough to play in the slot, so he's probably your boundary receiver. You're ignoring this glaring weakness of your opponent that a player like an extra tight end, like a Croft or a Knox, could better go up against. Even a fullback. I mean, we don't throw to the fullback very often, but
we've seen him do it.
You've seen him do it. If you were to play him at this point in time, for as much as everybody wants to see a big guy on the outside, I mean, I think that's been the big complaint all year is the Smurfs.
Yeah.
Our Smurfs just sometimes fail because size limits what they can do. It would feel almost like a knee-jerk reaction to put Duke Williams in there, rather than stick with what's got you here,
right,
and take advantage of the weaknesses that are laid out in front of you by your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think to your point, Dan, he had an opportunity in that Jets game to be that go up and get it guy, and he didn't come down with it. And that's what this Bills offense needs is a guy that can go up and get it. Well, if you've got one guy that's physically built to do that, and he gets his opportunity, and granted, he had a great game against the Jets, but he didn't come down with that ball that he can come down with that nobody else can come down with on that offense, then what do you activate him for?
Right, exactly.
Right? Because if he's not going to go up over Bradley Roby and come down with a ball, if you can't count on him to do that 75% of the time like you can with a Des Bryant, like you can with a Julio Jones, those guys that Bills fans seem to think Duke Williams is going to be or already is, if you can't count on him to go win those 50-50 balls, then you might as well have Dawson Knox because Knox can lose the 50-50 balls too. We've seen him do it all season. But you know what? We've seen him come up with some spectacular catches.
He can also block.
Well.
I mean,
Exactly,
he's just, Duke Williams is just a receiver. It sounds stupid. It sounds ridiculous. But really, he's just a better version of Mike Williams. I can go in the red zone and catch the football. Well, great, but we need you to do other stuff.
And it's so cliche to say, but there's a reason that there's a cliche, right?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
There's a reason that he hasn't been on an NFL roster until today.
There's a reason why he played
now.
There's a reason he played in the CFL. There's a reason why he made it through camp. He got cut. He made it through waivers. The Bills were able to put him on the practice squad. There's reasons for that. I think we have to acknowledge those NFL reasons with people who may know more than we do.
Right.
We want to root for the guy because we want to believe that, hey, Doug Flutie came out of the CFL.
Right.
Jeff Garcia came out of the CFL. Duke Williams will be awesome. And believe me, I want to believe it, but he I'm sorry, he doesn't check enough boxes for me. Now, if he's out there, that means he probably earned his spot. Great, but I don't see it happening today.
I think the thing that gets overstated in Duke Williams, everyone's mentioned his size. You know, he's big. He's a big receiver. He's a big target.
Yeah, compared to the other ones.
Foster's 6'2".
Yeah.
And runs a 4.3. So why not have him, the guy that would do more for your offense?
Well, because Duke Williams is 30 pounds heavier. I think that's where.
Is it 30?
I think that's where. Well, because I mean, Foster's what 195.
He definitely looks
Williams
bigger.
has
Like
been in
220.
Buffalo. Duke Williams has been in Buffalo for the past 17 weeks. So
Yeah, I mean,
he
if you
could
like
be
your
30
wings,
pounds.
yeah. I mean, so I mean, Duke Williams brings when you you talk about this a lot going into the draft, right? If you were to build a quarterback, well, if you were to build a wide receiver, Duke Williams is probably a guy that you build, right? I mean, he's tall,
He's a Madden guy, right?
Big, he's physical, he's a creative player, right? Maybe 2 more inches and he's the ideal candidate, but again, you can't just create a player in the NFL, right? You've got to, what's between the ears, how good are his hands, and those are all things that come into question, and we saw it against the Jets just as much as we saw the flashes of how good he can be.
In a meaningless game. Now, you want him running a 4-yard out on a 3rd and 6 in a playoff game in a 2-minute drill?
Right.
Well, oh, it's 4th and 2.
And
Oh, crap.
I think
You don't
what
want
people
that.
forget is that McDermott aside from the process, I would say secondary to the process, the other thing he trusts is versatility.
Yeah.
If you
He's
can't
seen it
do-
year in and year
we
out with that,
lost
yeah.
Jonathan Williams, who went on to have at running back, who Bills fans may remember. He's
Yes.
a fifth-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
This season, he went out and had a couple really good games for the Colts. He's not an untalented running back. You look at T.J. Yeldon. He brings talent.
Yeah.
But he never sees the
Everybody
field.
was excited about that
People
signing,
wonder
yeah.
why this happens. It's because if you cannot be a backup who plays two-way football, and that means playing special teams and offense, there's a large chance that McDermott doesn't activate you on his roster because he needs to believe that you can do all of these things. You look at the offensive line versatility that they went out and got. It's because he likes to be able to mix and match things, and he doesn't like backups who don't play special teams.
Yeah.
Duke Williams, yeah, he's bigger. He's also slower than Robert Foster, which is why Robert Foster's a gunner and Duke Williams is a bench warmer.
Right.
Well, ultimately, with another year, I think maybe this kid could be something great. He's a great story, and it'll be something to watch going into the next year's preseason. But for right now, to his point, you don't trust that a guy who makes the mistakes he made on last week in a game as important as this, you just can't.
And
do
the
it.
more important guy that you need to worry about when it comes to trust is Josh Allen. Today of all days,
Yes.
you need to make sure he's surrounded by guys that he can trust, and he just doesn't have that rapport with Duke Williams
No.
yet. And he's not there yet because he's not practicing with him every day. He's not throwing passes to him every day. He's, he needs his guys that he's had around him all season. Beasley, Foster, Singletary. He needs those guys who are going to come back to the huddle, tell him what he did wrong, tell him why they went right instead of left, so he can make those adjustments. Because, again, today of all days, going into his first ever playoff game, as much as he doesn't want to be a victim of the moment, he could quickly become a victim of the moment. He needs guys in there that are going to settle him down.
Yeah, well, the thing, too, is like the other thing that was mentioned a lot, and you guys said it, you throw a 50-50 ball at Duke Williams,
Yeah.
he'll come down with it. However, as much as I like Allen, he's not Rodgers. He's not Breeze.
Right.
He's not these guys that throw those precise 50-50 balls that, hey, okay, he'll go up and get it. Can you really trust Allen to throw the 50-50 ball, not only Duke Williams to catch it?
Right.
So that's the thing. As much as I love Allen, he struggled with those things
Right.
this year.
And
so,
he needs to trust that when he throws to a guy, they're going to be beyond the
Exactly.
sticks on third
Yeah.
down or at the sticks and be able to get there, not a yard shy because they cut their route early like Williams did.
I know we'll talk more about Allen as this show goes on, but ultimately this game, win or L, especially if it's an L, God forbid, I won't even say the word, that four-letter word that we all hate, but it's going to come down to Allen. He's going to be in the spotlight of this game. You want to be able to say, we gave Josh Allen every opportunity to win this football game, and to me, Duke Williams doesn't check that box.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Everybody else, Cole Beasley, John Brown, all those guys check those boxes. Duke Williams doesn't check that box yet. So you can't look back and say, well, we threw in our second best wide receiver, or third best. No. We gave that kid every opportunity to win this football game today, and Duke Williams isn't in that category.
Because for want it or not, this is a potentially career-defining game, at least to this point in his career for Josh Allen, right? Because it may not define the rest of his career, but he's been so good in the fourth quarter. He's
Right.
been so good in clutch situations. Next year, even if he's just as good as he was this year, if he doesn't win this football game, there's going to be that constant criticism from either the media or the fans going, yeah, but
And it's
he didn't do it in the playoffs.
and it's
He
hys-
didn't get that game done.
It's hysterical, too, because look at that quarterback class. Baker Mayfield ain't here. We'll see him in those progressive commercials, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we're not going to
Sam
see
Darnold.
Josh Rosen, 10 mistakes made in front of me. Dude, you're on your second team. Maybe next year your third team, okay? And, of course, I love Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold's had some issues. Okay, fine. We're talking about
Wait,
Lamar
you
Jackson
been
and
kissing infected women in New York City after games?
Yeah, I'm patient zero when it comes to mononucleosis. You're welcome, Bills fans. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, like right now, Josh Allen's not supposed to be here. Neither was Lamar Jackson.
neither one of the
But now they're
quarterbacks are
here.
here,
So
yeah.
guess what? Everybody's like, okay, I forgot what I said about Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Let me rephrase that. I expect these guys to win, and if they don't, well, they've come so far. No one's going to feel bad for them though if they lose.
Speaking of guys that reverse course on Lamar Jackson, I found it interesting. Did you guys see the All-Pro voting results
Yes.
came out? Lamar Jackson got 47 out of the 50 votes. One of the guys that didn't vote for him was Bill Polian, a guy who's reversed course, who said that Lamar Jackson should have been a wide receiver.
wide receiver
came
running
out
back.
earlier this year and says, I'm sorry for that. I shouldn't have been. Still didn't vote for him for the
Well, he said
All-Pro.
he
Still
at least.
standing by that.
So
right?
even publicly, he's
I think he said at least he should have run the 40 or something like that to give him more opportunities. But yeah, I mean, he was wrong. But I mean, so was everybody else. Even the Ravens passed on Lamar Jackson the first time.
Yeah.
For a tight end who's not even playing. So, I mean, everybody missed on Lamar Jackson. But you know what? You can overcome those things, just like Josh Allen has overcome so much. You don't know. I mean, the cliche is it's about the size of the dog and not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog.
It's grooming. I think it's grooming and coaching, and it's where do you land? Do you land with coaches and a staff that can be teachers? Not, hey, we're going to throw you out here and
Right.
just hope that what you are is good enough to get me by.
Right.
You need a staff that's willing, that is not only willing, but has the ability to foster that player's growth. You saw it with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. He landed with an offensive-minded head coach, an already talented
He
roster.
landed
he
in
had a
the
year.
absolute
The perfect
best
situation.
possible situation.
And he took a year off and learned how to become, under Andy Reid's tutelage, a better quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it, I mean, much slower, but you saw it with Cam Newton, where he eventually got a good quarterback's coach, and he got with a staff that could help build him up. So it's one of those things where it can be done. You also saw the flip side of that with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield got handed off to an inexperienced head coach who he didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't find his butt with both hands. So when you watched Baker Mayfield not so much regress, but not grow from what he showed last year, it's an indictment of the staff around him, which I think shows well for Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, the group that they've put together around him. And John Harbaugh, he's coach of the year for a reason. He's because that staff that he built was creative in how they utilized him and how they grew his game.
I mean, you want to talk about, Ryan and I have talked about this before, you want to talk about coming into a beautiful scenario. He talks about Patrick Mahomes going to Andy Reid, sitting a year behind Alex Smith, who's probably one of the smartest quarterbacks that ever played a position. I mean, the guy went through 7 offensive coordinators in San Francisco.
And
was
never
still
saw,
in the league.
never saw a reduction in
And,
productivity.
yeah, exactly. You talk about a perfect scenario. Greg Roman in Baltimore for Lamar Jackson. Like, I've said many times on our shows, listen, if Lamar Jackson goes anywhere but Baltimore, he's not the player he is right now. That was a perfect fit for him to go there. They're utilizing the kid's talents. That's why when the comparison of Allen and Jackson always comes up, I'm like, listen, the EP system, Jackson may be a star for 3 or 4 years, but he can't keep taking the hits that he's taking as a quarterback in the NFL. The system that Allen's running is a derivative of what the Patriots run. And the guy up there has been up for 19 years.
Right.
Well,
so
yeah.
he could run this system forever.
And you watch. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, and I've said it to Icy, who's co-host on my show before. Like, when it comes to Lamar Jackson, I mean, he thumps his chest on Lamar Jackson. My comment to him consistently is, let's see what Jackson is when Roman goes and becomes a head coach. Because that time's
fair.
coming, right?
That's fair.
Yeah,
Because you saw Roman do it with Kaepernick, you saw Roman do it with Alex
Tyrod.
Smith, you saw him do it with Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo. Let's see what he does with a different offensive coordinator, because there's not a guy in the NFL that does what Greg Roman does with running quarterbacks. So
It's funny because, I don't want to bring it back to Tom Brady, okay, but remember that draft and what happened? Well, Brady had a year behind Drew Bledsoe, okay, and he had Bill Belichick coaching. If Tom Brady lands anywhere else, we don't hear about him. We're not talking about it. But if you remember that draft, everybody makes the big joke. There were 2 other quarterbacks taken in front of him who actually had okay careers. Mark Bulger and Chad Pennington both had a year to sit. Both were both of them all of a
Bulger
sudden.
was awesome
strongest arm in the
for one
NFL.
year.
But, but that's my point about Lamar Jackson, though. With Mike Martz at the helm, all of a sudden Kurt Warner started his NFL career, and then Mark Bulger had his shot. But then, all of a sudden, when Martz lost his mind, Bulger lost his career. Chad Pennington, had help and he was a smart kid. He was a Rhodes Scholar. But then his arm is what really let him down. His shoulder injuries, and he just had no zip on the ball. But where you land does mean something, and who is coaching you also means something. So I think it's a fair point to say that if Greg Roman, he worked with Alex Smith and did wonders with him, worked with Colin Kaepernick, did wonders with him, didn't have a real opportunity in Buffalo. Let's be fair, his players ratted him out. And now he built an offense around Lamar Jackson. Yeah, let's see what will happen with Lamar Jackson if, in fact, Greg Roman takes off and goes somewhere. That is a fair question.
And I think it's interesting to see all the young quarterbacks that are in the playoffs this year for the AFC. Like you get your Patrick
It's a quarterback
Mahomes,
movement in the
You get
AFC
your
this
Patrick
year.
Mahomes. You've got Josh Allen. You've got Deshaun Watson. I just saw it come across ESPN over here on the TV. They're talking about how this is Deshaun Watson's second career playoff start. Josh Allen's first. This is Lamar Jackson's second career playoff start, and this is Patrick Mahomes' second. Because he
Third.
said his first and third.
It'd be third. I mean, almost
because he
third.
started the other game. So
You got Tannehill as his first, right?
Tannehill's
This
first.
is Tannehill's first.
So you're talking
Having a young
about an
quarterback.
AFC crop of quarterbacks. It's not the old guard.
Right.
And it's indicative of this youth movement at quarterback, and I think it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of the Patriots against the Tennessee Titans. Then we're going to get into game predictions and key players for today's game for the Buffalo Bills against the Houston Texans. Before we do that, our show is brought to you in part by Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Bob Johnson's goal is to give you the best deal on the best new or used vehicle possible. If you're not sure what you're looking for in a new car, truck, or SUV, make sure you stop by and talk to their expert sales team. They're going to help you figure out which model fits your needs and requirements best. Bob Johnson Chevrolet, Ridge Road West in Greece. Make sure you stick with us on the other side. We're going to be right back.
I could just do this for like 3 hours.
Yes.
I have.
That's
why
why I
Mario
Let's do it
asked
5
me-
days a week for
Mario,
4.
Mario asked me yesterday, he goes, how long? I was like, you know how it is with me. Like,
Well, we're done.
we're going to do an hour, but we're planning on an hour and a half. Like,
You gonna do another break too?
probably.
I was like, play still here for 4 hours. I want to go play like my free
Do I
play.
have time to go grab water?
Yeah.
absolutely.
You can always come in after while we're doing it.
Yeah, but that's
Guys, break. You should come
That's
with some
not
breaking.
professional.
You should come with some. Just come in with some breaking news.
Listen, I am the epitome of professionalism here. I mean,
Clearly.
the look on Mario's face.
As I'm pouring it, wishing it was vodka.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Oh man,
My
we did.
mom did that to me and my brothers at a wedding. She put she had a liter bottle of water in her purse. We're sitting in the church, and I'm like, okay, this wedding's taking forever. So me and my brothers, we go and I'm like, listen, I grab this water bottle out of my mom's purse, and I hand it to my brother. He takes a swig, doesn't say a word. I take this massive pull out of this water bottle. I don't even want to say it was a 50-50 mix. This was like 60-40 vodka water.
Coming in with no grace.
Yeah. Oh, you get to laugh at my gimme, Bill Grays.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
Love it.
Jesus.
I sing it.
Do you really?
Yeah, yeah.
Feel free to hop in and sing it.
And Fisher, I sing the Leo's ad too.
Mic down a little bit, please.
Stop trying to cover up that schnoz of yours.
That,
All right, we're back here at Thurman's 34 Rush for the Rock Sports Network Huddle Show. I'm Ryan Lasal. Joining me today, Dan Borello, Mario Granata, Drew Gier. Make sure you give all these guys a follow. Make sure you check out their shows as well. Dan's going to have the Dan Borello Show as well as the Overtime Show on Rock Sports Network. Mario and Paul doing awesome things over at the Hashtag Sports, who are actually streaming us right now. So we appreciate Hashtag Nation, which is very, very real, joining us for today. And then Drew Gier, Rock Power Report, the best Bills podcast out there. Our show is brought to you today by Bill Gray's Restaurant and Tap Rooms. Every Tuesday, Great Plate Tuesday at Bill Gray's. $7.99 gets you 2 Bill Gray's cheeseburgers on top of home fries and mac salad, loaded with your choice of toppings, including Bill Gray's famous meat hot sauce. Great Plate Tuesday every Tuesday.
Gimme, Bill Grays.
So we've talked a lot about the Buffalo Bills against the Houston Texans today, but there was a game, really an odd scheduling of the playoff games this
For
week.
those of us who follow football, it's,
Yeah,
it's bizarre. The rest of America is like, oh yeah, okay.
It's
whatever.
normally AFC, NFC, AFC, NFC.
Alternate.
This year,
Very
it's
weird.
AFC, AFC
Yeah.
today. So another game that's going on. The Tennessee Titans traveling to the New England Patriots to match up against that Patriots team that is struggling going into the playoffs for the first time in quite some time. And there's implications to this game for the Buffalo Bills, because if the Bills win and the Titans win, then the Bills are going to go to face Kansas City next week. If the Bills win and the New England Patriots win, the Bills are going to have to go into Baltimore next week as well.
Saturday night.
Yeah, on Saturday. So Mario, I'm going to start with you. If you're the Buffalo Bills, just the team, not necessarily the fan base, because the answer could be different.
Yes.
Who are you rooting for today? Do you want the Titans because that means you get to Kansas City, or do you want the Patriots because that means you get another crack at Baltimore?
I think that it's a catch-22. I really think that if you whatever team you go to now, Kansas City, I'd rather play. Or if I'm the Bills, I'd rather play Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, because Andy Reid's 1-5 in championship games, so that works in your favor. You have the experience against Baltimore. I would rather. I think somebody said it. We were doing a stream last night. I would rather see Baltimore after they have to face Derrick Henry if the Titans win. You'll run through him for 200 yards or whatever. I'd rather have him run through that Baltimore defense. But as far as that goes, you're gonna struggle with both of those teams. Now, is it the devil you know or the devil you don't? McDermott has a familiarity with Reid, but you have familiarity this year with Baltimore. What would you rather do?
Drew, what would you rather do?
okay, the question comes down to philosophy, and it's: do you want to try to play? What do you fear more, a system or talent? And this is and it can vary from person to person, coach to coach, team to team. I'd say that in a game, going up against a team that gave me fits for 3 quarters, and yet I was a touchdown away.
Yeah.
I had the ball in the 4th quarter against,
And you had a pass to the end zone to tie
and
it.
we
Yeah.
solved some of the run action things that they do, some of the play pass concepts that they run. You solved them just from film study, and then you got to play them, and you found out that what you saw on tape worked. Your eyes didn't lie to you. Do you want to try to fight what is a system-driven offense in a team versus a team that has, on ESPN radio they always joke around about how they just refer to him as future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes. Do you want to go up against a perennial Pro Bowler in Travis Kelce? Do you want to play a perennial Pro Bowler in Tyreek Hill? The problem with going up against teams like this over here on the talent side is that any one of those guys, regardless of what you know about their scheme, can just make plays. They can personally dismantle your team and make you shift your defensive and offensive philosophies. They've got pass rushers. They've got Pro Bowl talent all over that roster. Me personally, I'd rather go play a team that's beholden to one system than a team where they are who they are, but that could
They
look
do it
like,
really well.
But it could
Yeah.
look like anything.
Yeah.
They could throw any sort of concept at you, so film review becomes that much more difficult.
So, Dan, for you, are you looking at the team that's weapons from top to bottom on the offensive side of the football, or are you looking at the team in the Baltimore Ravens that are just scheme better than anybody else and they just blitz the hell out of you when it comes
even
to
the Rebel Alliance found a way to blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
Is that a Star Wars reference? Never saw it. I saw one of them. It's okay. I don't know why you people get so excited about that stuff. Anyway, the Rebel Alliance. Now you can't do that. I have ADD. Now I'm going to think about Star Wars stuff. So, okay, selfishly, I want the Bills to play Kansas City because my band is playing Saturday night. And if the Bills end up playing the Ravens, my whole freaking week's going to be thrown out of whack. I'll be like playing songs.
Watching the game.
If they don't cancel us or move us, because I doubt they're going to want a cover band coming in when the Bills are on in another playoff
I mean,
game.
nobody wants to hear Air Supply while football.
Right. I'm so lost without you. That's like our third song. I mean, in all
First
seriousness.
encore.
He's been there.
If we're talking about the Bills and not my selfish interests, honestly, I'd rather play Baltimore because you played them before, and even though they have a bye week, Andy Reid's excellent at bye weeks. Now, Andy Reid is not great in terms of in-game situations. Like, he has brain cramps, the kind that Bill Belichick doesn't normally get. The knock on Andy Reid has always been every once in a while his clock management will screw up or something will happen. The Chiefs or Andy Reid, whether it was with the Eagles or the Chiefs, they inexplicably have lost games so far. So maybe that would be a better idea, except after a bye week. The guy's amazing with 2 weeks to prepare for a game, okay? And like you said, they have weapons top to bottom. You go to Baltimore, a team you've played, who, by the way, if Josh Allen makes a couple throws in Buffalo, that game's a completely different situation.
And if Jordan Poyer doesn't get caught looking in the backfield.
Right, exactly. You have a situation where that team showed in that Baltimore game, if nothing else, they can play with anybody in the National Football League, okay? They can beat the Ravens. They can beat the Chiefs, too. But in all honesty, they've seen the Ravens. They're familiar with the Ravens. And oh, by the way, you take out Lamar Jackson, or if you can neutralize Lamar Jackson, which in a way they kind of did, you can beat that team. Yes, I know it's playoffs, and I know it's in Baltimore. I think I'd rather play Baltimore.
I think if it's me, I would rather the Tennessee Titans win because I think the Titans can beat Baltimore. I think the Titans match up really well with Baltimore the way that they play because their playing styles are very similar to the Bills.
You're going back to
But you still have to
And I would challenge that Andy Reid's really good coming out of bye weeks, but that's when he knows who he's playing after the bye week. He doesn't know who he's playing until today.
You got a pretty good
But he's
idea,
gonna
though.
find out.
All right, guys.
Well,
You guys
you're
work
going
on the
back-
Bills. You guys
You're
work on
going
the
back to
Vikings.
the late '90s, early 2000s with Baltimore versus Tennessee, man. That'd be a great matchup. But
Right.
the thing, statistically speaking, they held Baltimore to their lowest rushing and second lowest passing total, only to San Francisco in the entire year. So
Yeah.
take from that.
And
game
they're the
what you
only
will.
team to hold, the one of two teams all season to hold the Ravens that's to 17 points or fewer.
Is he seething over here? I don't know. You okay?
No, he's
Oh,
good.
yeah. Oh,
He's
no,
good.
I'm good. I'm good, sir.
A lot
Now
of people in the chat are talking about they want to play Kansas City. They want to go.
Yeah,
to
and
Kansas City.
I think a lot of Bills fans understand that if it goes to Kansas City, that also means that you've got an outside shot at a home playoff game too, right? Because if the Bills beat Kansas City and the Titans beat the Ravens, that means the AFC Championship.
yeah.
We
comes
are
through
biased.
Buffalo.
We are
A
selfish.
little bit,
Of
right?
course we want those
I mean,
things.
if you're going to
That's not
Kansas
lost
City, that
on
means the
anyone.
Patriots lost.
Right.
I mean, that's the huge thing.
My whole thing was like goes back to Little League Baseball. You want to pitch your best pitcher that day. Don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow might not happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's assume a Bills win today. I want that's what I'm thinking. I'm not even worried about a home.
You want a
playoff
game that you know you can win, and
win
you know
the
you can beat
games.
Baltimore.
If you
right?
win on the road, you still win.
Well, the
I
thing-
can't in good conscience ever root for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh, I
take
can.
I'll chew glass before I ever root for the Patriots to win anything, even if it benefits me, because I'm jaded. I'm a bitter fan, and I can't let it go.
Now, let's also talk a little bit about the Patriots because they drew the absolute worst matchup they could have in the first round of these playoffs,
they
right?
did.
I mean, they couldn't have asked for a worse matchup than against the Tennessee Titans, because this team with Derrick Henry and the defense that the Titans bring, that's going to be a problem for the New England Patriots, because the Patriots capitalize on teams that make mistakes and throw the ball, right? And the Titans don't do that. They hand the ball. I mean, they've got A.J. Brown, who's the best rookie wide receiver in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
He had one touchdown in their must-win game, and it was on a carry. It was a 56-yard jet sweep that he took to the house. They never threw the ball to him the rest of the way, and they wound up winning that football game to get themselves into the playoffs. Derrick Henry, the rushing champ, is going to beat the hell out of that Patriots defensive front, and that's a problem.
If you look at what the Patriots are, they're a team that's predicated. When you look across their entire roster, they don't have a lot of stars.
Right.
And they don't have a lot of physical freak athletes. What they have is a lot of guys who, like your Kyle Van Noy's of the world, who maybe even in some cases some other teams shrug their shoulders at and said, hey, you're not big enough, fast enough. They have players who are very nuanced. They have a finesse front seven. They don't have power rushers. What they do is they get by on finesse and execution and a very good secondary.
Yeah.
They prey upon teams that throw the football. They force a lot of turnovers, and then they use that pressure the secondary creates to let their front seven get home. You can't rely on that against a team that's built the way the Titans are, because they don't take chances downfield.
Right.
What they do is they play with physicality.
Yeah.
And we saw in that game in Foxborough when the Bills went in there and tried to play heads up with the Patriots decided to play with physicality. But they had to get up for that.
Yeah.
The Titans already have it.
Yeah.
And so what
Titans get off the bus physical.
and the thing that they do, and I give a lot of credit to Vrabel for this, as a coach, he doesn't panic. I've watched him go into games where he gets down by 10. And in a lot of cases, that would force some coaches to say, okay, we're going to throw a couple times. We're going to throw a little bit more. We're going to shift our philosophy. As long as he's not down by 14, they're going to continue to run the ball. And they're going to try to get their 30 to 40 carries. But the effect of that is you see, there was a perfect example, a game against the Oakland Raiders this year. I'm sitting there in my basement watching it on TV. It's tied 21 with 10 minutes to go in the third. They have already, I think, 26 carries in the game. And then all of a sudden they rip off 5 big runs and it's 28 to 21. Mm-hmm. Their defense goes out there, manhandles the Oakland offense, they get a 3 and out. 6 more carries later and all of a sudden it's 35 to 21.
And your defense
and
is
they
getting
start to
breathers.
run
Yeah.
away with the game because that physicality has now had time to take its toll, and they just battered them for the rest of the game.
They're a rope-a-dope team.
I mean, when you look at the Patriots, you talk about execution, right, and scheme. And what that gets you against the Tennessee Titans is that gets you in a hole with a 235-pound running back that runs a 4.5 40 coming at you. I mean, that's your reward for executing the right way against the Tennessee Titans. And
He's
again,
a Heisman
that's
Trophy winner for a reason.
he's the rushing champion for a reason, right? I mean, and that's why Vrabel is so good at continuing to run the football, because Derrick Henry, as much as he's going to punish you, he can run by you and go for 90 yards in the blink of an eye just as fast. So, looking at Vrabel as well, I mean, Mario, Vrabel has to know the Belichick scheme about as well as any coach that Belichick's going to go up against. I mean, he played for him for what, 6 seasons, right?
Yeah, but how many times have we seen Belichick teaches you everything you know, not everything he knows. So you've seen all these coaches that leave him, then they go, and then they end up coming back, or they end up they're flaming out or whatever. You want to talk about McDaniels going to Denver. Oh, he went to the playoffs and won a playoff game with Tim Tebow. Okay, I might give him that one.
Yeah.
But Charlie Weiss flamed out. Cornell went with O'Brien down to Houston. And then Vrabel was down there, and then he ended up going. So,
Charlie Weiss hasn't been the same since he left New England.
No, I think, but he's still getting paid by Notre Dame, I think. But
That just ended last year, actually.
That
just ended.
And he's on Sirius XM doing fantasy football stuff for some
Gosh,
reason.
he's
But
awful.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know about
Sorry.
Vrabel could have some intel. You're right. He could have some intel, but I would trust more that Belichick had the plan against Tannehill twice a year. You know, him being in Miami, and you know he could say, "Listen, we're going to make Tannehill beat us.
Yeah.
We're going to put everyone in the box. We're going to let them. They want to run 35 times a game. Sweet. He's going to get 42 yards.
Yeah.
Let Tannehill try to beat us because he knows that Tannehill can't do it. Vrabel might be expecting that, maybe better adjusted to that because he's played under that tree. But I would love to. Like you said, it's a great matchup. I would love to see Henry run for about 250 today.
Well, I think one of the big things that people, you mentioned it and it stuck in my craw. I made a note when we were talking about Josh Allen and the Duke Williams situation and guys that he trusts. when you've questioned, everybody's questioned, is this the downfall of the Patriots, Tom Brady, the whole nine?
Yeah.
One of the things that has been a narrative, a quiet narrative for the Patriots this season, we've had Patriots fans and podcasters on our show over the course of the season to talk about the team. And one of the things you hear from everyone is that the issue isn't Tom Brady not being able to throw the ball. His mechanics aren't quite what they are, but he's a 42-year-old quarterback. His mechanics are going to slowly break down. But the bigger problem is that he does not have wide receivers that he trusts or that he has chemistry with. Mm-hmm. They've kind of pigeonholed
He's got
these.
one guy, yeah.
He's got Julian Edelman is the only player on this roster he's developed any sort of a rapport with.
Who's aging in his own right.
And who, as his health and thus his ability to perform has declined.
When he's not faking seizures on the field.
So has Brady's performance. You've watched Brady's performances decline to the same meter as Julian Edelman. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's not on the same page as N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
He's not on the same page as Jacoby Myers. Or
Mohamed Sanu, who he didn't have an offseason with. Yeah.
Didn't have an offseason with. His young tight ends who really aren't all that great on their own. And the problem that you're seeing is that we talk about what you can teach. Tom Brady is not at a point in his career. They said as fans, for Patriots fans, one of the most frustrating things to watch this year, you would think that having a Hall of Fame quarterback as a wide receiver would pay huge dividends to your learning curve and what you're going to learn from him and what he's going to be able to teach you about how to do your job. Tom Brady hasn't illustrated the patience this year because I think he sees the end of the road coming and says, I need you to be better. I don't have the time to teach you how to, because I have to focus on what I'm doing. And it's been to the detriment of their offense. And I think that against the defense, I mean, we talk about the offense of the Titans, that's a physical defense. I don't know how you play against that. So you're talking about holding their rushing attack to 42 yards. How do you score 17 in this game?
Oh, I was just pulling a number out of the air.
No,
I'm
I
just saying
know.
he'll run the ball. If he runs it for 35, Belichick will say, listen, we're going to limit you the second level.
I think this is a game where if you're a finesse team like the Patriots, that execution and finesse, you're going into a fist fight here. That's what this is. There's no finesse about this, and I just don't see how it matches up well for the Patriots.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with Brady, and I think one of the overall problems that we've seen with this with Brady and his breakdown and this offense with the Patriots this year is when you live by the mantra of just do your job, and you've got a guy in Brady who is subject to what every greatest player of all time is subject to. Like Michael Jordan did the same thing. Shaquille O'Neal has the same. Why can't you just do it? Right? Because I can go out and do it. Like Michael Jordan, that's why he never made it as a coach. Because he could never understand, why can't you just go do what I do? Just go do it the way I would do it. Kobe Bryant's the same way. He can't understand that he used to say all the time in practice. Just go do it. I don't understand.
Because
Because
they have work
Gretzky
ethic.
was one of the worst professional head coaches. All-star player, all-time great.
Yeah.
One of the worst NHL coaches of all time.
Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, yes, of
and,
course.
And the famous story about Kawhi Leonard coming into San Diego State when they tried to teach him help side defense, and his answer to the coach was, "Why do I have to learn help side defense? Why can't they just stay in front of their guy like I do?" Tom Brady's the same way. If he doesn't have guys around him doing what they're supposed to be doing, he doesn't understand why, and that ratchets up the frustration level.
I don't know how hard
We've
it
seen
can
it
be.
time and time again. Why can't you just go run that route? Or Edelman, we saw it with Welker. He started to break down.
Listen,
We're just going to go get
Gronkowski used to
Amendola.
dunk over
Amendola
that
break down. We're just
linebacker.
going to
Why
go get
can't
Edelman.
you go do it?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Why can't you just run the route like you used to run it 3 years ago when we were so good? You can't do that anymore.
Well, Belichick saw the writing on the wall with Welker because he drafted Edelman, and I guess it was a preseason game. I don't know if you guys know about this. It's a preseason game. He's standing on the sideline. Welker didn't dress. Edelman runs back a punt in the preseason for a touchdown. Belichick looks right over him. He goes, "You know who Wally Pipp is?" So he already knew he was going to replace him with Edelman.
Yeah.
But the thing, how hard can it be to play in New England? It's an 8-yard passing tree. How much do you really have to know in that offense?
But the problem is in college, when you've got a guy in N'Keal Harry and you've got a guy in Mohamed Sanu who have played in systems where you don't have to fight to get off the line. Yep. And the way that you disrupt the Patriots is you get up in their face and you jam them. If you can't get off the line, your timing's off, and you're not. I mean, that's why Julian Edelman's been so good, because he can get off the line and he can go run the route and be there when Tom wants him to be there, right? These guys can't do that yet because Sanu can't get off the line clean. N'Keal Harry doesn't know how to get off the line clean.
Yet.
So that's what creates the problem. Even though it's an 8-yard passing tree, teams know how to best defend, even though it's not, it never works out well for everybody. But the best way to defend the Patriots is don't let them get clean off the line, and you've got guys that can't do that. And that I think the Mohamed Sanu trade, as much as I thought it was going to make this offense better, I think they've been worse since Sanu came on.
Sanu-
Because Sanu brought a dimension that they didn't need because they already had that in Harry.
Sanu
Right? They needed
admitted
a guy
that
that could stretch the field.
Sanu admitted the offense is still way too complicated for him, and he's been in multiple offenses. Just to tell you, Bills fans, how complicated the Hart Perkins system could be, that the Bills actually do run.
Chad Johnson went to the Patriots, and everyone thought that it was going to be this perfect marriage because you got one of the all-time greats, if not a Hall of Famer. And he went there, and I think in the Super Bowl, when they needed him most, he had one catch for 5 yards, and he was never open, and then they stopped putting him on the field.
Yeah, and Randy Moss. He was so good because he just ran by everybody, and he was one of those guys where if he wasn't open, he was still open, right? I mean, if he was in single coverage, throw me the ball, and I'll get myself open.
Dante Culpepper made a career because of Randy Moss and Chris Carter. He goes to Miami, he falls apart. Why? Because they didn't have 2 stud Hall of Fame receivers.
Well, honestly, if you want to look at the statistics, Culpepper and Moss was actually better than Brady and Moss.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you understand.
Just get it.
I mean, legitimately, and I've brought it up a few times before. If Randy Moss plays his entire career in Minnesota, Dante Culpepper might be a Hall of Famer, just in the numbers that he would put up with Moss, because Moss was just getting to his prime when he went to New England.
Well, I think that move. I mean, if I'm putting on my tin hat, the move that New England pulled for a second rounder for Sanu, I think that was more to raise the market for all the other receivers that everyone was talking about. AJ Green at that time. We were talking about Julio at the time. Oh, they're gonna trade from there. I think doing that early, New England Patriots ended up getting Sanu, and they're like, listen, all right, now that's the market. Yeah. And all these other receivers are like,
I'm 2,
way better
AJ Green's a 1 and a 3. Yeah.
Exactly. And no teams wanted to give that up. So what they did is they added Sanu, saying, hey, we got a solid player, and we're deterring anybody other league, any other teams to getting a good wide receiver as well.
The one thing, though, fellas, we're putting dirt on the New England Patriots. We do this year after effing year.
Okay.
Last year it was the Chargers game. Yep, WGR. It's over. Patriots dynasty's done. And they go out, and not only do they throttle the Chargers, they go out. Yeah, they get by Kansas City. That's all you have to do one time, and they win the Super Bowl against the NFL's next resident genius, who, by the way, isn't in the playoffs right now. Ryan Tannehill, as Mario alluded to, faced the Patriots twice a year. Now, there were times where he would get by. I mean, the Miami would beat the Patriots, unlike the Bills, at full strength, Patriots. Not like, guys suspended or anything else, or guys who are, all right, we're prepping for the playoffs. No. Ryan Tannehill would actually beat the New England Patriots at full strength, but he didn't do it often, like Jets often. It happened, but it didn't happen that often. I find it hard to believe. First of all, I look at Tom Brady, and as much as his receivers and him are on the same page, he's not looking like Peyton Manning in the final year of his career. No. Peyton Manning looked like, remember Tecmo Bowl when you had quarterback Bills and Frank Reich threw the ball like way in the air because that's how they rated him? Peyton Manning looked awful, but he had a ferocious defense. Well, New England's defense ain't bad. Now, they could be battered in this street fight tonight, but I am not going to bet against the New England Patriots until you declare them legally dead. So I can't do it.
Dan, you must be a lot of fun at parties. Come on.
Oh, dude.
There's a joke on the Dan Levitard show that they tell constantly when they talk about the Patriots being done.
When they are talking sports.
One of the guys jumps in and goes, "Don't do it. I care about you.
Yeah, right.
Don't get yourself, essentially don't get your hopes up because I'm really concerned that if you think the Patriots are done."
Say it out loud.
And I said it before the Bills game. Until the Bills go into Foxborough and beat the Patriots, I'm not ready to pronounce anyone dead or the Bills the king of the AFC East or whatever the case, because until you beat them, you can't beat them.
Colin Cowherd has a phrase on his show. If something sounds ridiculous in your mind, say it out loud and see if it really sounds ridiculous. And I've used that in my life. Say it out loud. Ryan Tannehill's going to end the Patriots dynasty. Yes! Okay. Do you really believe that? Now, if it happens tonight, hey, okay, God bless you. More power to you. Hey, Tommy, we'll see you in Denver. Maybe in L.A. I don't know. Maybe Indianapolis. I have no idea.
Maybe Miami.
Could be Miami, too.
Wouldn't that be something? Tom Brady goes to play for Jim Irsay after all the acrimony between those two franchises.
We're better for Tom Brady to go if he does retire than to Miami, or if he leaves the Patriots then to Miami. Though I mean, you retire to Florida, you retire to South Beach, right? You get to go play a year, and Tua can rehab with the Miami Dolphins.
He can afford to pay the taxes. Come on now, his wife's got the money.
Well, the ownership stake he'll have in the Patriots, he'll be able to afford the.
Right,
I can't wait till the
whole story
soft
comes
money
out.
comes out.
Yeah.
But the thing we have to remember, though, is that the Titans had a shot to pound their chest and go, all right, the Texans are coming to town. We got this. What? And the Texans beat them in Nashville. All of a sudden, maybe we're not as good as we thought. That was the Texans.
Yeah, and it's happened. It's happened every year with the Patriots, right? Where everyone questions, is this the end? Is this the end? It gets to December, and they start
They're like the
steamrolling.
Undertaker.
Okay,
They pop back
But
up.
this year it's not happening.
That's why it's
and that's the why it's
Eventually it's
different for
gotta
me as
end.
well. Father Time's
You
undefeated.
generally see the Patriots come into December, and that's
They're
when
peaking.
they're firing on all
Yes.
cylinders, and they peak in time for the playoffs. Now that's coaching, that's preparation. It's usually the narrative is early on in the season the Patriots are vulnerable. Why? Because Belichick is treating that like an extended preseason.
Like it's the NBA.
He wants to
Regular
come out
season
here
doesn't
and
matter.
He wants to experiment with packages and personnel, and he wants to know what he has. Because he trusts that if he wins enough games, if he's even slightly above 500 through the first month of football, it doesn't matter. Because when he gets to late October, and then through November, and then into December, he's going to have everything down to a science. His roster's going to be fine-tuned. Everyone's going to know the responsibility, and you're going to peak at the right time to go play one-and-done football.
And the problem with that is today
Has not happened.
they're facing that team today
and it
in the
has
Tennessee
not
Titans.
happened.
My question
Exactly.
is this: if he doesn't have a historically elite defense this year that everyone was touting, like they allowed
You have
like
no
12
idea what the
points,
record might be.
they may be 9-7.
Yeah.
What's going on? That defense was. I mean, there was a couple games in there that Brady threw for like 130 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. That usually loses you games. Unfortunately, it gets Brady an MVP in the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
throwing for $145 and 1 touchdown. But they don't have a historically elite defense this year. What happens?
Right.
What happens with the
Stephon
Patriots?
Gilmore is playing.
And you started
Yeah.
to see that the cracks in that foundation of that historically elite defense have started to present
It's called Patrick
themselves.
Chung. Throw at him all day.
He's
So we're gonna go
I
ahead.
forgot he's still in the NFL. I literally forgot he was still in the National Football League.
And do you know why? Because he's old. Do you know why he can't do it? Because he is old. He cannot be trusted to cover tight ends anymore. You know why Kyle Van Noy and some of these other guys are out there? Because they've played a lot of football. Even if not by age, by the sheer volume of games, with all the extended postseason action they've gotten, these players are old. And so tonight, I'm hoping that the Tennessee Titans can roll in there and batter these old men into the nursing home where they belong.
If not beat them, set them up for a bad matchup next week. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. Before we do that, our show is brought to you in part by Tucci's Restaurant. This is
Love
usually your
Tucci's.
read.
Love
but,
Tucci's.
but I'm going to do it today just
Go
for
ahead,
a
yeah.
shot. Tucci's is a great happy hour spot.
I can't
They have
read
an
it right
excellent
anyway.
kitchen, so you can grab lunch any day or dinner on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Friday nights. Eat in or take it with you, as they have unique and affordable specials and feature some of the best wings, burgers, and plates around, as well as some of authentic Italian dishes. 1479 Lyle Ave near Mount Reed. See you at Tucci's. We're going to take a break. When we come back, keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to get score predictions from everybody before this game gets rolling. So make sure you stick with us on the other side. We're going to be right back.
It's funny you call.
Oh, we're out.
Yeah. you
Okay, can I take a look real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's funny he calls Chung old when Jonathan Joseph's like 35. He's
That's
gonna
what I mean.
He's gonna try to cover Beasley
Old
today.
guys try. I want to see old guys trying to tackle Derrick Henry.
I'm looking forward to tonight.
It would be like
Bro, just trip him. Just trip him, dude. Just trip.
It would be like Mario fighting the crowd that's here this afternoon. Just
Knock knock. Knock knock. You hear me?
What do you got on here? Anything
They're gonna have hashtag Nation's gonna put some predictions in the chat very soon. We're
Okay.
just talking about. We had a Baltimore fan come in and try to
Oh,
troll. It was
interesting.
fun. They hate hearing Brady's name out of Drew's mouth.
Yes.
That was great. But yeah, Dan's a popular figure.
You're popular hashtag
Good or
nation.
bad?
Very good, very good. They're just keep with the discussion.
There were a couple times I said some stuff earlier in the show. I'm like, oh, why'd I say that? Did I really have to go to that circuitous route to make that point? I could have just
Big
made
J,
it before.
yeah,
Yeah,
we know we're still at.
1960s AFL.
1960. Oh yeah, that one.
All right,
The-
we are back here at the Rock Sports Network for the at 34 Rush for the Huddle Show. I'm Ryan Lasal. This guy's Dan Borello, Mario Granata.
Did you already
Drew Gier.
plan the Titans victory parade? Is
Drew
the
Gier
hour-
had to go take a breather after talking all the Patriots Brady that we just did in the last segment, but he's going to be back. We're here at Thurman's 34 Rush, where things are happening every night with over 30 HD screens, including a 15-foot main screen, food and drink specials, live music on select weekends. If you're looking for a spot to watch the games today and you're in the Batavia area, or you want to make the drive out, 34 Rush is a great place to come out and watch that. So, again, we talked last segment about who would we rather see. It seemed like the unanimous decision was the panel would rather see Baltimore in the next round, but understand the implications of the hope that, as fans, the hope that the Patriots lose because you love to watch the Patriots lose. And again, it keeps that outside chance at a home playoff game in the AFC Championship.
Well, I mean, the path for me, as much as I would like for the Buffalo Bills to exercise the demons and beat the Pats, I don't care how it happens, but obviously we know how it happens. Kansas City, you got Houston today. Kansas City and Baltimore. You know why I would love that path for the Bills? Because number one, you passed on Watson. Number two, you passed on Mahomes. Number three, you had a chance to get Jackson too, and you picked Allen over Jackson. So if the Bills are able to poetically exercise their demons and go through those three teams, defeat those three quarterbacks, Josh Allen will be like, listen, this is the reason they picked this kid. You know what I mean? But I'm locking myself in my house if the Bills go to the Super Bowl because it's going to be like the Purge in Western New York. I'm not trusting anything. I'm not trusting anything.
I'll be out there. It'll be no shirt Sunday.
I was gonna say, Drew will be a
Sunday.
warlord by the end of the night. So let's talk about back to this Bills game. The Bills again going into Houston to face the Houston Texans, a historically not great team in the playoffs, 3-5 in their short life as a franchise. One of the things I threw out to you guys before the show started that I wanted to talk about, I think everyone knows the primary keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills, right? Josh Allen has to play, limit the turnovers. He's got to play well. Devin Singletary's got to run the football. Trey White's got to lock down DeAndre Hopkins, blah, blah, blah. Same that everyone's talked about, same that Drew talked about, you guys have talked about, right? So I don't want to do that again. I want unsung keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills. Drew wants to go first. I can tell in his eyes, so I'm going to throw it over to you. An unsung key to victory for the Buffalo Bills today.
Okay, so one of the biggest things in this game, and it's going to mean a lot, especially with the news that Will Fuller isn't going to play. I mean, we've already talked about what that does to their offense. One of the things that kept the Houston Texans relevant all season was their rushing attack. And the fact that Carlos Hyde, after he was traded to the Texans, really sparked their rushing attack through much of the season. But as the season went on, if you look over their last 4 weeks of the season when they had their starters playing, it was interesting to see that with Will Fuller, even when he was out there, not 100%, what happened to their running attack? The teams that played him, Carlos Hyde had 0 runs of 15 yards or more. He had no runs of 5 yards or more versus the Patriots because the front seven knew, listen, that wide receiver, we're not
scared of Kenny Stills.
We're not scared of Kenny, and ultimately they paid for it,
Right.
But they played with fire on that front, but they did a good job hemming Carlos Hyde in, and it didn't hurt him. He was held versus Tampa to just 1 run of more than 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. I think the problem is that without Will Fuller, you can bring safeties into the box and you can patrol the run, and it very much tilts. It allows teams that even if you can overpower them, like Tampa Bay, it allows that defense to stay afloat against you if you're not letting their rushing game get off the ground. Without Will Fuller, you don't have to you made a point earlier, you don't have to play deep safeties anymore. So when you think back to what we did against the rushing attack of the Ravens and why we were so effective at shutting that down, it's because we allowed ourselves to play an extra safety in the box 80% of the time. Today, the key is going to be how we deploy our safeties, and I'm assuming it's probably going to be Jordan Poyer because I think he brings a little bit. You want someone with a little bit more coverage skill on the back end with Hopkins. So it's going to be Jordan Poyer and how often he's allowed to play in the box and how effective he is in that facet. Because if he executes down there, I don't know how that offense for the Texans finds any balance.
Dan, unsung key to victory for the Buffalo Bills.
If you remember the Jacksonville playoff game, there was one guy who came out of nowhere, did something nobody expected him to do, and that was Blake Bortles, and he ran with the football.
Yeah.
And Kenny Stills, over time, has been a Bills killer. Now, I don't expect him to be. He is, what's our word of the day? Old. He is a little older. But Trey White can take care of DeAndre Hopkins. And by the way, I expect Hopkins to make some catches today. He's not going to get shut out.
He's too good. Yeah, he's too
right.
good.
I mean, it's going to be a fun matchup.
He's the best receiver in the NFL right now.
Your other corner, whether it's going to be Levi Wallace, whether it's going to be Kevin Johnson, whether it's going to be Taron Johnson over there, the other side of the field. Keep an eye on that. Also, you're going to laugh, and I hate bringing this up. Your kicker. Your kicker's had some struggles this year. Now, you're inside, but if Josh Allen's taking sacks on 3rd and 7 and pushing them back at field goal range, and they're forced to kick field goals that they don't normally want to do, that's going to put your kicker in an awkward spot. Yeah. The Bills are not a high-scoring team. They do rely on field goals. They do. They're not going to be putting up 28 points in touchdowns.
That's why Hush is one of the highest-paid kickers in the league.
Right.
Because this team, they know.
It infuriates me when running backs say, well, kickers can't do what I do. Yeah, but the game's always on the line with a kicker at some point. That's why they make the money that they do. Steven Hauska's going to have a good game today, and the Bills hopefully don't have to put him in a position where he has to. God forbid. Okay? But like we like you said, we know what Josh Allen's going to have to do. We know what everybody else has to do. Devin Singletary, though, to me, if this kid could show up and show America, hey, I'm here too, I'm part of this too, then guess what? It takes the pressure off everybody else. It gives the defense a breather. And all of a sudden now, Bill O'Brien's got to play with his ears back. And what does he do? He struggles.
Yeah, he struggles.
So I think that's a huge element of today's game.
Mario.
So I'm going to go two guys on the defense. Number one, the matchup of Duke Johnson versus Matt Milano. How are they going to guard him out of the backfield? He's averaging 9
You know me,
yards.
I'm a big Duke Johnson
I know,
fan.
I know.
I'm a Duke Johnson stan.
I'm tugging
Sitting
the-
right here to your right. Love Duke
tugging
Johnson.
the heartstrings of Ryan over here. But, you talk about he's averaging 9 yards a reception, 5 yards a carry. Because when he's in the game, they don't expect him to run the ball. So
And he's good in space.
He's a very versatile weapon. You're going to try to look for either Milano or Edmonds. I think Edmonds will probably just man the middle, and they'll put
Yeah, you better
Milano
hope
on
it's
him.
not Lorenzo Alexander on him. That's what you mean. You
No.
have to try to
Well,
avoid
that's
that.
why
at
I
all
like
costs.
Poyer
And-
playing down there.
And we're gonna see that heavyweight bout with Hopkins and White. But Kevin Johnson coming back to Houston after being a first-round pick, how is that dynamic going to play out when he's covering Stills and because everyone's always banged up in Houston, but. I'm interested to see what that CB2 position is going to do and how they're going to try to exploit something with Kevin Johnson because they do have familiarity. They drafted the guy in the first round for crying out loud. They do know what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. If he ends up getting targeted early and often, I'm going to start to worry a little bit about this game.
So the guy that I want to talk about a little bit, we talked about Josh Allen and how important it is for him to stay in the moment, play well, come out early, not too hot. We've talked about the impact of potentially J.J. Watt, this offensive line. Mitch Morse, for me, I think is going to be a key player in today's matchup. His job is going to be keep Josh Allen even-keeled. His job is going to be get those offensive line calls right, make sure that Josh Allen isn't facing undue pressure, making sure that these guys are taking care of their jobs, especially with Cody Ford in his first playoff game, especially with these guys that don't have experience playing these deep games. Mitch Morse has playoff experience. He's got that center position in a lockdown. It's the first time since Eric Wood left that the Buffalo Bills have had consistency at that center position and have had a solid player there. Now is the time for Mitch Morse to earn his money. I think he's going to be a big player in today's game, keeping Josh Allen grounded, keeping that offensive line on point, making sure that they know where J.J. Watt is, making sure that they know where these limited pass rushers are for the Houston Texans. So for me, Mitch Morse, my unsung key to victory for the Buffalo Bills today.
That's a great one.
So I'm going to start off predictions today. Drew, I'm going to start it with you. I'm going to leave you with, just real quick when we get to our score predictions, an interesting stat. Over-under on today's game, for those of you who bet, 43 points. Buffalo Bills have not played a team where the total has gone over 43 points unless the team has been the Miami Dolphins.
Right.
So the Miami Dolphins are the only team that the Buffalo Bills have played in a game where the over-under started above 43, was over 43 at the end of the game. So with that being said, Drew.
Well, I think it speaks to the coaching. Now, coming into this, a lot of the narrative by the national media has kind of morphed into Deshaun Watson versus Josh Allen. But I don't feel like that has a whole lot of validity to it because they're both young quarterbacks. They're not going to dictate the game for their team single-handedly. They're not. Neither one of them are at that.
And they
point
don't
in their
face each
careers.
other,
They don't
so,
face each
yeah.
other. What this turns into is coach versus coach. You're not talking about a matchup of Sean McDermott against, going up against Bill Belichick or Andy Reid or John Harbaugh, some of the game's great coaches. You're talking about Sean McDermott going up against a coach that this season, first of all, Bill O'Brien's track record in the playoffs is horrendous.
Yes.
And he's been outscored 99 to 50. 99 to 50 in the games that it's not good.
No.
Then you take a look at what they've done this season in terms of just preparation and this idea that you can get up for big games. We've watched the Bills get up for big moments. The Pittsburgh game, the Cowboys game. When the spotlight has been bright, he's found a way to get his team to answer. When you look at the Texans this season, they've had four different two-game win streaks and then lost to a non-playoff team in a game that would have everyone shrugging. It's inconsistency. And over the course of this season, Bill O'Brien hasn't been able to coach that out of his squad. I think that in a game like this, I trust a more defensive-minded head coach he coaches a unit with what he knows that's one of the best in the entire league at what they do versus a Bill O'Brien team whose offense can be up and down, and that's what he knows. That's supposed to be his strength. And he's got a defensive unit that's not anything special. I trust the job that our staff can do better than this, and because of that, I'm willing to say that the Bills find a way. Their defense finds a way to keep this thing within striking distance. We win by a field goal, and I'm going to call it 23-20.
23-20. Dan.
I want the Bills to win this game more than I wanted my first marriage to work out. And if you think I'm kidding, I have said that countless times over the last several years. Even my first marriage was like hit or miss. Like, all right, we'll see what happens.
Why not?
It feels good to get this nervous over a football game. The Jacksonville game, I wasn't nervous about because, like, oh my gosh, we're here. This is not supposed to happen. All right, great.
You were just excited to be there.
Yeah, but then I realized after the game, I felt like Billy Bean in Moneyball, where he smashes the radio and goes, That's what losing sounds like. That's how I will feel if they lose this game today. I won't give this season a success. I'll give it an incomplete. Because now we got to go into next year with a lot more questions than we may have thought. This is a winnable football game for the Buffalo Bills. It really is. You win this week, I don't care what happens the rest of the playoffs. Of course I want to win.
Sure.
But now it's like, yeah, this season was worth something. And the knock on this team has always been, well, they didn't beat anybody, but they played their schedule. This is a chance where now you play a real playoff team. And no, not the Tennessee Titans with Marcus Mariota. You're playing a guy you skipped over in the draft, Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. I think this game's going to be very close. I think it's going to be low scoring. Like most Bills games, it's going to be a one-possession game. And as I mentioned with Steven Hauschka, I think he's going to be the guy that's going to have to come through today. I hate picking scores because that means, well, I think there's going to be a block kick here and then the game flow. Cody Ford's going to have a holding call. It's going to force a 3rd and 12. I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills are going to take this game 20-17.
All right, Mario. #Nation. I'm sure. I know they've already put score predictions out there, so go ahead and read some of those if you've got them.
We got the common ones: Bills by 50,
Bills by 100.
Bills by 100.
And you had Coach O out there saying "Go Bills."
Yeah, we have actually someone saying that the Texans are a dream team, so they're gonna hand the Bills a loss. Obviously, we get those in here.
Okay. Awesome.
Bills 51-3. You know what I mean?
Oh,
those numbers are always coming in.
Okay.
It's great to have those, but you know what though?
#Nation is nothing if not optimistic.
They are awesome. I'll tell you right now.
Do they drink as much as we do on our podcast? Because it sounds like it.
Sounds like they got into it early today. Yeah.
Right.
69-68. You know what I mean? It's a couple of those scores like that. But I will say this: you guys, I'm terrified now of both of you because a field goal, you're gonna put this in Hauschka's hands or feet. Like
I'm not putting it anywhere. I'm just thinking. I'm just hoping it happens.
I was passed out. I get a feeling before this game, the last time the Buffalo Bills went down to Texas, I'm getting that same type of feeling where they're going to be like, listen, they're on a national stage now. They're going to prove who they are to the world. They're going to say all this. I'm going Bills 24-10. And because I saw how this defense performed against this offense with Fuller last year, and you had, Philip Gaines covering. I know you love that.
Philip Gaines is on their team.
I know, on the IR.
It's the best thing that could ever happen.
It's a poetic justice. But the thing is, though, they held, if Peterman wasn't Peterman, they held him to 13 points. That was after they got the ball at the 1 yard line and held him to a field goal. So I know you can't really go, this and that, but, they have planned for this type of offense for Hopkins, for Watson and everything. I'm going to say it's going to be a 24-10 game.
Hope you're right.
I'm going to say they're going to break it open with a turnover late. It's going to be 17-10. Watson's going to push. And it's going to be a return for a touchdown.
I talk about on my show how nice it was to go into Week 17 with a meaningless football game.
Yes.
Right? How nice would it be to the point in your trajectory as a team to play in a playoff game where there's really no stress as the game goes on, right? 24-10 seems like it's a beating that you never really wonder whether the game's in doubt. I don't know if this team's there yet. I do think, however, that to Drew's point at the beginning of the show, this team needs to do what's got them there. And what's got them to this point is close football games, defensive football games, a late surge by the offense because they can't really find their rhythm. I don't expect any of that to change today. I don't expect them to all of a sudden figure out what this offense is supposed to be because they haven't done it all season. So I expect this to be a close football game. I do expect Hauschka to come into play at some point because you're going to stall because this team stalls. Josh Allen's going to take a bad sack where it's 3rd and 7 on the 32-yard line, and he's going to take a sack to push it from a 47-yard field goal to a 52-yard field goal. That's going to happen because that's what this team's been. And I don't expect McDermott to change any of that throughout the course of this game or to all of a sudden flip a switch and Brian Dable all of a sudden knows how to call an offense from beginning to end and just, air it out. I'm going to go 17-13 in this game because I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be, a a game where they keep it tight with the defense. A late score by the offense might get things done enough. So that's where I'm.
Well, no, that's why I prefaced it with the same feeling I had when we went into Dallas. When Bills went into Dallas, I thought they were actually going to lose that game to Dallas, and then they end up coming out and just crushing them. So. Yeah, that's why you guys are all picking close games. I got to be different. So.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Also, we got to remember the Icy's going to be out.
Yeah, Icy is in Houston. That's why he's not here today. So he's actually down in Houston.
One love, Icy.
So make sure you follow him on Instagram at IcyVic. Make sure you also follow the Rock Sports Facebook page. If you're already watching on the Facebook page, give it a follow because Icy's going to go live periodically. He was live a couple times last night. He's going to be live periodically today once he wakes up from whatever he did last night. He's going to go live a couple times to show the atmosphere that's down in Houston for those of you who couldn't make the trip down there as well. And if there's a victory, you better believe that he's going to be live for a lot of the night after tonight gets going. So.
Yeah, but Big JH came in the chat real quick. He said, Jim Kelly's first playoff win against Houston. Is this fate that Allen gets his now?
It's interesting. I mean, that Houston Tech team is now the Titans, who were also a lot of people are going to be rooting for. But yeah, I mean, in Houston, there's a lot of history between Houston and Buffalo when it comes to football.
I gotta tell you, yesterday was the 27th anniversary of the greatest comeback ever. And I just want to make this.
600,000 people attended.
Yeah, I know. That's the big joke, isn't it?
Know?
Like for a game that like
everyone was there.
They needed like they only had 72 hours or something like that to sell it out. They couldn't. There were only 60-something thousand people. People left and actually were allowed to come back.
Yeah.
If you remember that game, people had black boxes. People were going to like bars with satellites. Shh, don't tell anybody, and everybody would show up. You know, what gets lost in that shuffle? That was Van Miller's finest hour.
Yeah.
And it never gets brought up enough. And I'll tell you what, man, you know, you had the game in '88 against the Houston Oilers in Buffalo where the Bills won, and you realized, okay, this team's onto something. Yeah, they lost the following week in Cincinnati in a tough game, but we got nervous. And then we got accustomed to getting nervous. All of a sudden, we were living off antacid for the next 10 years. Doesn't it feel good to have that feeling again? Even though you're a nervous wreck, it feels great.
Yesterday, I was watching the clip from NFL Films. They put out a short clip celebrating the comeback. Mm-hmm. And the thing, I got goosebumps just hearing that dramatic NFL Films music behind watching the Bills play. This year has been some of the most apologies to my wife, to my neighbors, to my to the people who are still willing to call me a friend in public.
To your pets whose heads fell off?
It has been, I've got a dog who hides when football comes on. But this season has been so much fun. Having that anxiety, having that in the Pittsburgh game when you're watching this drive and you're hanging on for the final 2 minutes going, what's going to happen? The excitement of watching Josh Allen railroad half of the Dallas Cowboys on his way to an 8-yard run on 4th and 1. These moments, that's what makes watching the game. It's being a fan, it's what makes it worth it. This season has been incredibly fun. I don't want that to end. And so with that, today is going to be fun, and I want this thing to keep rolling, and I'm looking forward to the anxiety that today's going to bring.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Bills fan base, coming from the drought, coming from where they were at the time that they did the 4 straight Super Bowl victories, or almost victories, but 4 straight Super Bowl trips, and then the drought came. I think Bills fans of any fan base in professional sports can understand what this moment is and can appreciate the day as a whole and can appreciate what last night was down in Houston, can appreciate the build up to the game, can appreciate the game in and of itself, and to have it end today on a game that they should probably win and a game that a lot of people think they're going to win. The difference 2 years ago was they were there. The drought was broken. Everyone was just emotionally exhausted after that game where the Ravens,
they were that 16th seed in the NCAA tournament. Hey, we're here.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you were the team that finally won your conference, and you got your automatic bid to the dance. It's like we're here, nothing else matters and that was the mantra, right, for Bills fans for so long was just get there. Just break the drought so we're not that graphic that shows up every year when playoff time rolls around. For me this year it was just don't be in the hunt, right? Don't be that graphic on the right side. Control your destiny as you go to the playoffs. Now you're here, and now you need to win because this is a winnable football game. Just like the New England game. That was a game you should have won. If you were where you thought you were as a franchise, you should have won that New England game. If you are where you think you are as a franchise, you have to go into Houston and beat a not great Houston Texans team that struggled in the playoffs with a bad head coach and a front office that's a mess. This is a team you're supposed to beat. Go out and beat them.
You opened the show on a note that I think is a great place as we're wrapping this up.
Oh, we're done? Oh.
I know, you love staring at this beautiful face of mine.
Yeah.
Made for radio, sir. You asked about how this feels, and if this does just in fact feel like another game, and how Sean McDermott plays a role in that. I think Sean McDermott has a plan, and this is just another step in it, the process.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills PR department put out a video this week that, again, you want to talk about something that gives you goosebumps. I watched this thing, and yes, for everyone who complained, the color, that they put a weird filter color on it that almost made it look like Dolphins colors. But it was a video about this past season. And then part of the video was you got to watch them go around the building and peel off all of the playoff caliber stickers that existed around the building.
Yeah.
And replace them all with a sticker that said championship caliber. When you talk, that's what this is. It's a growth.
Yeah.
And I think that he's a realist. He came into this knowing this is going to take baby steps. This isn't Rex Ryan saying, hey, we're going to build a bully and we're going, so buckle up. But they've taken that step, and now he's challenging his players to say, look, okay, you did this. Great. Golf clap. Now we take the next step, and it starts on Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday. That's what we're doing today. That's what today is. I think it's a great place for us as a team, and to your point, you're supposed to take that step if you think you are championship caliber.
Half the teams next year will not make the playoffs, statistically speaking, who made the playoffs this year. You don't want to be one of them, and it starts today. Whatever happens after today, I'm okay with that. But you gotta make a statement here. All right, yeah, the Dallas game, yeah, it was cute. Dallas is in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh game was awesome. They're not in the playoffs. Now we're in the playoffs. This is the time.
And that's where the narrative changes. What could be the narrative next season is defined today. Because if they go out and lose today, they played an easy schedule. They probably shouldn't have made the playoffs. Had they played X team schedule, they wouldn't have been there. And they lost to the Texans. They weren't supposed to be there. They're pretenders. So next year, it's just another team. Let's see what they do with a real schedule, all that, blah, 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 right? You win today, and you go from a team that hopes that they're good to a team that is good, has a playoff win under their belt, facing a Tom Brady that's aging or maybe gone from the New England Patriots by next season, and you all of a sudden become a favorite in the AFC. So you could potentially today, with one victory today in the playoffs, go from a pretender not only this year and next year,
right,
but to a contender next year where you shouldn't have been, according to a lot of people, shouldn't be in this moment today. You shouldn't be playing the Houston Texans in the playoffs because you played such an easy schedule.
Okay.
Well, if I could step out of the playoff, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, does anybody talk about the 2010 Seattle Seahawks? No? Nobody even know. You're looking at me with blank looks like, why is this important? You want to know why? Because you talk about what winning and losing in the playoffs can do for you. The Seattle Seahawks in 2010 were the first team to host a playoff game with a 7-9 record. But when the New Orleans Saints, with their better record, came to town,
when they won the Super Bowl the year before,
they hammered that team on their and they handled their business, and they won that playoff game, and now nobody talks about that team. Why? Because they changed the narrative of who they were.
Well, and you had the greatest run in playoff history in
Man, Pete Carroll was almost on his way out.
Yeah.
People forget that. Yeah, you're just a college coach. I mean, you just won like the Texans.
Second stint in the NFL.
Yeah, you just win a wacky
again.
division. Yeah. Okay, anything can happen, right?
Young quarterback that nobody believed in.
So all of this talk about easy schedule, cupcake division, all of these things, that goes away if you win.
It immediately changes with a victory.
And the thing about the Bills, I always thought that they were well ahead of schedule from where they were, because we would talk about the Bills. You're like, hey, they're winning these games. They were at 5-1 at one point. We're like, what? Are they ready to be in this position to make this run? We know their defense is good.
Same old Bills.
The same old. Yeah. But then we were kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it never really dropped.
Because it always did.
So then, but here's the thing you have to remember: if the Buffalo Bills win today, outside of the playoff picture, that drops their draft. Mm-hmm. Usually, teams that are drafting, where the Bills are going to be drafted, if they win today, are one player away, one or two players away. If you can safely say that the Bills are one or two players away from being a consistent Super Bowl contender, then that's fine. If you think that they're more than that, then they're ahead of schedule, which the credit has to go to McDermott and Bean on that point.
I think of any Bills team that we've looked at over the last decade, this team is the closest to being 1 or 2 players away than they've ever been. I think with the salary cap that they have going into the offseason, the draft capital that they've built up in the middle rounds, and what Bean has done with those middle round picks, this is legitimately a team that could be 1 or 2 players away by the time the draft rolls around. You talk about the free agents that are out there. Yannick Ngakoue at the top of that list. A signing like that, and then shoring up guys like Trey White, Matt Milano, those guys that are going to need contracts in the future, signing them now so that they're locked up down the line at team-friendly deals when the salary cap goes up year after year, they could legitimately be. You add one piece to this defense, and it's solidified for a very long time. And that's a legitimate pass rusher on the opposite side of Jerry Hughes, that when he ages out, you can go get another guy on the opposite side of Ngakoue or whoever that might be. That's the one guy for the defense. On the offensive side, shore up the offensive line, go get a wide receiver. This is the draft to do that because they're so deep at both positions, specifically in the middle rounds. This is the closest that they've been to being one player to 2 players away.
Yes.
And I think a win today is a franchise-defining moment going forward, and probably a staff-defining moment for this coaching staff, because it will validate what they've done, right? It will finally be, trust the process. This is where we've gotten. This is where we wanted to be. Now let's go out and get the rest of the players, use the cap that we've built, go draft the way we've drafted over the last few years, and we're going to be fine, and the fan base will believe it.
The future is bright.
Yeah.
The future is bright, and hopefully it starts.
And it all comes tumbling down with a loss, and it continues to get built up with a win.
So go out there and handle your
Absolutely.
business.
Go out and do what you're supposed to do, and go out and win this football game. Dan Borello here to my right. Make sure you give him a follow. Dan Borello Show, and also the Overtime Show on Rock Sports Network. This guy to my left, Mario Granada from Hashtag Sports. Make sure you give him a follow at Hashtag on Twitter, as well as the YouTube page, which a lot of you already know what that is because you're watching there. Yep. But we appreciate Hashtag Nation for joining us as well. Drew Gier on the very end. I will argue until I'm blue in the face. The best Bills podcast out there right now. That. Rock Power Report. Him and Chris doing great things as well. So I'm Ryan Lasal for the Rock Sports Network. We certainly appreciate everyone who joined us. It's 34 Rush for hosting us as well. And guys, we do it at the end of every show, so I'm going to ask you guys to join me in this. Go
Bills!
Let's go.
I'm gonna get nachos.
Let's go. Yeah.
Who wants to start drinking? I need a beer.
I'll get a beer.
Let's go.
I can do a beer.
I'm fired up.
I can do a beer. I'd have a puppers.
Puppers. Oh, dude, I love this show.
I'd have a puppers.